And joining us live in studio, Siyabulela Gentile, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Not In My Name SA. And we have Commissioner Nomsisi Bata, Commissioner for Gender Equality. Musiri Tsiane is the chairperson of the South African Liberty Foundation. And you at home, thanks so much for joining us. And good evening to our panelists, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll start with you, Commissioner Bata, in how the South African government now finds itself in a precarious position because of the diplomatic ties that we have with Zimbabwe. What is it that they ought to do lawfully in taking into consideration those relationships?
Well, SADC countries are here, hosted by our distinguished politicians. And being here, you know, this whole thing that happened is very unfortunate because it will spoil the apple cart, definitely. Precisely because this thing happened even prior to the summit or the gathering of heads of state and other important guests. And it happened in some kind of a private place. And for us, as the Commission for Gender Equality, we are saying, we are reading undertones of power relations. The powerful people, whether they're women or men, you know, they can get away with murder or do anything, you know, that they prompted to do without thinking about the status and the position that they hold in society. That is very unfortunate.
But I mean, it even makes law enforcement difficult because the police now have to hear from international relations on what to do, because there's that sensitivity around the diplomatic status that she may or may not deserve. But nonetheless, she must be held to account. Mr. Gentile.
Exactly. Thank you very much. She must be held to account, Cindy, because first of all, even the legal advisors of the Department of International Relations have made it clear that she doesn't qualify for diplomatic immunity. Firstly, because the reasons for her visit in South Africa by the time of the incident were private. She was not here on an official basis. And as I said off air, that now the government of Zimbabwe wants to insert her retrospectively as one of the delegates that will be sitting on the delegates of Zimbabwe on the SADC summit that will be in Pretoria, which again, it's unlawful and it's wrong, because we know as the First Lady, she's not part of the delegation. And it's a very difficult one, and the government is forced to, you know, to act decisively on it, to say they must look beyond the political status of the individual involved. They must look beyond the political party to which they belong to, in fact, because this is no longer about ZANU-PF, it's no longer about the African National Congress. It's about the government of the Republic taking a stand and protecting as first priority the citizens of the Republic. So now we are just waiting to hear what the Department of International Relations and Corporations will say with regards to this, because I understand SAPS is ready to act, of course, upon receival of an indication from the department.
Yeah. Mosiri, how does the government avoid an embarrassment, as we saw with the Al-Bashir case, and being seen or perceived to be inactive or normalizing abuse, or especially gender-based violence?
You see, wrong could be defined as something else, which I would like to also refer to a very peculiar case we have now. And in this instance, this case is very peculiar, very strange case. You have somebody who says they were sitting down out of nowhere, unknown to the attacker, unknown to the victim, suddenly attacks her. For me, it's a strange case. It says to me it's bizarre. You know, the allegations, they are just unfounded. You know, sometimes we don't necessarily at all times have to jump into conclusion. Here we have a situation, and quickly we have AfriForum jumping into the queue and say, we'll help this woman, the victim in this instance. It tells you there's a political motive playing around here. There is something strange about the facts of this case altogether. I'm sitting down, a person doesn't know me, Grace doesn't know this woman. She doesn't know Grace. No clash, no reason. She's attacked. For what? These are the allegations that she's making. But be that as it may, from the moment President Mugabe was elected the president of Zimbabwe, up until the end of his term, at all times together with his wife, will be, when they visit any other country, they can never visit on personal or friendly basis. They're forever on, as long as within that period of 5 years, they are regarded as officials. So she automatically qualifies for this immunity that is being granted. She will not come here as a nobody. She comes here as a first lady, whether on an official trip, whether it's non-official, but for that term that she serves as a first lady for this period of 5 years.
Yeah, let's take our first caller, Zipporah, calling from Pretoria, and you at home likewise. The lines are open, 011-542-2186. Good evening to you, Zipporah. Thanks for calling.
Hello, Melikai.
Everything Lekai?
No, Mama Way, whatever Kanyeri Shibile Mo, Yare Makasa Kawani, Ronaka Kwanu Yanu, Mutu Atwekwa, Atohuetan Takam, Asape Mutu, Tawani Kimutua Mayem, Kitenyanum Barinyadi Tota Mo South Africa. Kehoneri to Bonam Hori, Kesia Ilo Fella. Welcome me. Oh, thank you, ma.
Hey, Mem is a Pora in Pretoria, and we have another caller. Good evening to you. Hi, Siabonga.
Yes, how are you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. That lady ought to be put behind the bars. No compromise. She came prior. She knows for a fact she came to see his kids. On the other hand, she just shambok. That lady needs to be taken behind the bars. Mbalula must not play with us. We are South African, we are watching them. We are still watching. We support what AfriForum is doing in terms of trying to put a closure to this thing and attend and assist the concern.
Yes, thanks so much for the call. Just going back on Mam Zipporah's point to saying this is the highest level of undermining the South African Constitution and our laws, and action must be taken against First Lady of Zimbabwe. Your reaction to that, Commissioner?
Well, Cindy, for me, for us as a commission, this happens at a very bad time. We are here facing the high prevalence and the rising prevalence of the scourge of gender-based violence in South Africa. And women are on the receiving end. Young women, the girl child, older women, you name it. Women with disabilities, gays and lesbians, sex workers, everybody is facing this. And this happens when we were supposed to be commemorating Women's Month, and we are inundated with calls back and forth about, incidents of gender-based violence, and this happens, irrespective of the fact of what happened, the background happened, but the whole thing about an older person, a woman, hitting a young woman who I would presume was defenseless at the time. This, for us, is very, very sad.
Yeah. Commissioner,
Indeed.
let's, I beg your pardon, let's take another call. Anonymous, good evening, calling us from the Western Cape. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks yourself.
I'm good, sir.
I just want to comment, you see, it's a disgrace what Mrs. Mugabe did. But unfortunately, my point now is on AfriForum. AfriForum, where it comes from. There was a young boy who was shot by picking up a sunflower on the farm, where it was. Now there was a guy, they put him in the coffin, AfriForum, where it was. But yes, we do understand, it's a Women's Month, it's wrong what she did. But you see, the problem here now in South Africa now, there are some behind the scenes that they want to take over the country, unaware. That's the major problem, that if you can concede in South Africa.
Yes, sir. I hope you'll join us for that debate. It's actually coming up at 7:30 this evening. We do appreciate your call. Just in terms of whether this can be revoked or not, and how does it work, Musiri, in terms of diplomatic immunity? You seem to be of the view that it automatically applies to a spouse when the president ascends to power. does the sending state have to revoke the immunity, or is South Africa given the power to manage this?
South Africa has to honor it. This is not the only official that we have here in South Africa that will be visiting us. There are a number of them that are visiting South Africa almost every day. And as we speak, there are a number of dignitaries that are here, as that immunity being granted to them. Now, in this instance, but in particular, you know, this jumping into conclusion to say that the First Lady has committed this offense, when in fact it has not been put to the test. I think we should be debating other things in this regard. But to conclude that she has violated this individual, we don't know in actual fact, the facts themselves are strange. You have somebody
but
who's
can you argue that it was self-defense? I mean, we, as you say, we don't necessarily know the details.
We don't know the
details.
Yes, but apart from the fact that it was even self-defense, from what it's presented, from what she says, she said she was sitting down together with her sister, and the First Lady of Zimbabwe moved away from her bodyguards, attacked her. That's all we know. But you question. And later on, you've got AfriForum jumping into the picture, which raises eyebrows and say, but what are we dealing with? But be that as it may, fact remains that is she protected by the immunity that has to be granted?
But she's not given a license, though, to be reckless, even if she has the immunity.
Yes.
Just hold the thought. We have Mark in Johannesburg. Thanks for your patience. Good evening.
Good evening, Mambi. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thanks for asking.
Well, we ought to listen to Grace. We cannot just jump into conclusion and assume that she's guilty. I don't believe she's guilty. Let us wait and hear our own side of the story. This AfriForum is jump into conclusion because it concerns Mugabe. We all know they hate Mugabe. This is a racist ideology. We refuse to accept the story of that young lady. We must listen to the story also of Grace Mugabe.
Mark, thanks so much. Much appreciated. I mean, and that's the problem, I think, with gender-based violence, where in most cases it's the burden of proof lies with the victim. Yes. Albeit that, yes, Grace or any other perpetrator or accused has the right to reply and defend themselves. But do you think that that's the trend that perpetuates violence?
That is the trend, exactly. And the whole thing about patriarchal and power relations. And if she was provoked in some way, she's got 10 bodyguards next to her. She had the choice, or the bodyguards had a choice to call the police. There is law in this country, and very good law that we are proud of. She had a choice to call for police to intervene or call the hotel security to come and intervene if her security was hamstrung in acting. There is nothing that will justify a young woman, defenseless as she was, beaten up.
All right, Sinano, thanks so much for your patience. Good evening to you. Sinana?
My problem is one. The lady sitting with you on the panel there, she's a mother. She reminds me of my mother. But basically, what I'm saying is, why do we have to prejudge a case that was not tested in court? Is it because she's Mugabe's wife? Please, people. Thank you, Cindy.
All right, I mean, yeah, Sinana, and thanks for that, because it is a high-profile person that is alleged to have committed this crime. We tend to, as Sinana suggests, to overreact or even conclude on matters that hasn't been tested in court. Your view, Mr. Gentile?
Yes, thank you. Look, I'd like to disagree that, first of all, this diplomatic immunity thing does not justify violence, first of all. And now to say that by virtue of being First Lady, automatically she's protected diplomatically, it is wrong, because what it brings us to is that and if I may say, Cindy, we've got very good laws in this country. We've got very good laws, but the problem is implementation. The implementation part of it is tailor-made, is tailored to the individual social status. Because had it been just a normal person, because there's evidence that the lady was brutally assaulted, she would have been arrested by now, or the laws could have acted. And one other thing, if I may add, if then the first lady, by virtue of being first lady, is automatically diplomatically protected, and that every visit she makes is official, why then are we in this predicament that we are in now? Because if had she been protected automatically, then there wouldn't be a case in any way.
Okay,
why is then SAPS waiting
a legal perspective? Sorry, Mr. Gentile.
Not a problem.
All right, we have Anonymous, our last caller from Polokwane. Good evening to you.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for putting me on the panel here.
You're welcome.
Right. Being on an official visit doesn't justify brutalizing anybody. And being on a private business doesn't mean someone should be brutalized as well. This is the first family. They are the people that set the laws, same like the first lady in South Africa. They are the people that should be exemplary. So in this case, South African law must take its effect. They must just put the lady behind bars and explain her situation. If the court is going to release her, then we start from there.
All right, very briefly, your reaction, Masiri, to this whole diplomatic protection and whether she can exit the country or none, or if anything will come out of this.
You see, there's nothing that says that diplomatic immunity means that you have a leeway to go and assault, go and commit crime. It doesn't that. It simply says you're being protected. The laws will against you within a specific country, even if you're being charged, you'll be protected against. It's either you have it or you don't have it. If she has it, she's being protected.
Meaning she can get away with it?
She will get away with it.
Oh, wow. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Masiri Tsiane is chairperson of the South African Liberty Foundation, and we have Siabulela Gentile. He is the founder and executive officer of Not In My Name South Africa, and Commissioner Nomsisi Bata is a commissioner, is with the Commission for Gender Equality. Thanks indeed to you at home for calling in as well. We're back after this.